Welcome to the Deep Dive, everybody. We're going to be exploring today something I think we all do every day, communicate,
Absolutely.
but through a really unique lens. Today, we're going to be delving into the world of a 53-year-old woman named Calamity, who is living with MS,
Right.
multiple sclerosis, and we're going to see how it's impacted her ability to connect with the world.
Yeah, that's a really great topic. And we have some great material to work with today, too.
We do. We have some summary notes about Calamity's situation. And this is the cool part. We also have Calamity's direct input, her own words about her experiences.
Having that firsthand perspective is so valuable. I think it lets us move beyond like the clinical descriptions of MS and really understand what's it like to actually live with this condition, the human impact.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something we can all relate to on some level, right? I mean, haven't we all had those moments
Oh, yeah.
where like the right word escapes us, or we feel like our brain is moving slower than our mouth?
Yeah. All the time. But for someone with MS, those everyday communication struggles are amplified. Because MS is a neurological condition, meaning it affects the central nervous system.
Yeah.
And specifically, it disrupts the signals between the brain and the rest of the body. So imagine your brain is trying to send a message to your vocal cords to form words, but the message gets scrambled along the way.
So it's like a faulty wire causing a short circuit.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And depending on, where that short circuit happens, it can affect speech in different ways. For Calamity, one of the most noticeable impacts has been slowed speech. It takes her longer to form words and get her thoughts out, which can be incredibly frustrating.
And I can only imagine it's like having that tip of the tongue feeling all the time.
Right.
But even worse, because, it's not just a temporary brain blip, it's something more.
Exactly. And it's not just about, finding the right word. Sometimes MS can make it hard to control the muscles involved in speech, leading to slurring or difficulty articulating sounds clearly.
Wow. It makes you realize how much we take, like, the simple act of speaking for granted.
Oh, for sure.
We don't even think about all the complex neurological processes that are happening behind the scenes to make that happen.
Yeah, and that's just the physical side of things,
Right.
What's fascinating and often overlooked is how MS can impact cognitive processing speed.
Okay.
The rate at which your brain takes in and makes sense of information.
So even if someone with MS could physically speak without any issues, their brain might still be struggling to keep up with the flow of conversation.
That's exactly what Calamity describes.
Wow.
One of the things she mentioned is that she can no longer keep up with movies.
Oh.
Think about the rapid-fire dialogue, the complex plots, the subtle nuances of expression.
Right.
For someone whose processing speed is affected,
Yeah.
all of that can become just overwhelming.
Oh, man, that must be so isolating.
Yeah.
I love movies, and I can't imagine having to give that up as a form of entertainment because my brain just couldn't keep pace, It must feel like a part of you is being shut out from the world.
And that sense of isolation is something we need to be really mindful of, especially since Calamity mentioned living in a fairly isolated area.
Yeah.
But here's the amazing part.
Okay.
She's found a way to combat that isolation and connect with others through her online community.
Or FOD.
Yes.
Friends on Demand. I love that acronym.
Me too.
It's so clever and heartwarming at the same time.
It really is. And for Calamity, it's more than just a cute name. It's a lifeline.
Yeah.
It's a place where she can connect with people who understand her challenges, share her passions, offer support.
It highlights the incredible power of online communities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How they can provide connection and belonging, especially for those who might feel marginalized or isolated in the offline world.
Absolutely. And for Calamity, that online community has become even more important because she's embraced the world of content creation.
Wait, she's a YouTuber.
She is.
Now I'm really intrigued. Tell me everything.
And she loves it. She creates videos on all sorts of things, cooking, cleaning, just slices of everyday life.
Oh, wow.
It's clear that she finds joy and purpose in sharing her experiences with her FOD.
It's incredible to see how she's turning, a challenging situation into an opportunity for creative expression and connection.
Absolutely.
But I'm also curious, knowing the communication hurdles she faces, what's her experience been like as a content creator?
Well, in her own words, it's more work than she expected.
Oh.
And she's very aware that she's not as fast as most people, which she feels impacts the growth of her channel. But here's the remarkable part.
Okay.
She's not letting that discourage her.
So she's not giving up.
Not at all.
Wow.
In fact, she said, and I quote, "I will get there," which speaks volumes about her resilience and her positive outlook.
I find that incredibly inspiring. It's like she's refusing to let MS define her or limit her dreams. You know,
I believe it.
she's finding her own path and her own pace.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message for all of us, isn't it? That success doesn't always have to look the same. And that sometimes the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I love that. Yeah, and Calamity's story makes me think about the emotional side of living with a chronic illness like MS.
It's easy to get caught up in the physical symptoms,
Right.
but the emotional impact can be just as profound, if not more so, especially when it affects something as fundamental as communication.
Exactly. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore that emotional impact in more detail.
Okay.
We'll delve into how Calamity's coping with the frustrations and challenges of MS,
Yeah.
and how she's finding strength and support in her online community.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. Stay tuned, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. We're picking up our conversation about Calamity, that 53-year-old content creator who's navigating life with MS, and just showing us all what resilience and adaptation look like in action.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were talking about her online community, her FOD.
Right, Friends on Demand. And it's a great reminder that these online spaces can be so much more than just entertainment.
Yeah.
For Calamity living in a somewhat isolated location, that online connection is vital.
It's like she's found this virtual village, a place where she feels seen and understood, even when communication in the physical world can be so challenging.
Exactly. And it's not just about receiving support, it's about actively participating and contributing.
Yeah.
Calamity's passion for creating content for her, FOD, is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'd love to dig a bit deeper into her content creation.
Sure.
It's just incredibly inspiring to see her pursuing this passion, even with the hurdles that MS throws her way.
Yeah.
What kind of effort goes into making those videos, knowing what we know about the fatigue and the cognitive challenges that often come with MS?
Well, remember, Calamity herself said that it's a bit much, so it's definitely not easy for her.
Yeah.
But she loves it, and that love is what fuels her to push through those challenges.
There's something so powerful about finding that thing that lights you up,
Oh, yeah.
that gives you that sense of purpose, even when life is throwing all these curveballs,
Yeah.
And for Calamity, it seems like content creation is that thing.
It certainly seems that way, and it's not just about, the creative outlet, it's also about connection.
Right.
Each time she posts a video, she's engaging with her community, sharing a piece of herself, inviting them into her world.
Yeah, and in a way, she's turning what could be a very isolating experience into something positive and outward facing.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about, finding ways to adapt and thrive even when things are tough.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about an important point that often gets overlooked when we talk about MS or any chronic illness for that matter.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's the emotional impact.
Yeah.
We tend to focus so much on the physical symptoms.
Right.
But the emotional side can be just as challenging, if not more so.
Yeah, we touched on that a bit before the break.
Yeah.
Calamity mentioned feeling frustrated and embarrassed by her communication struggles, but I imagine there's a whole spectrum of emotions she's navigating.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really struck me was Calamity's comment about feeling a sense of loss.
Loss? In what way?
Well, she used to take great pride in her communication skills, and now with MS affecting her speech and cognitive processing, it's become a source of frustration and even shame.
It's like having a part of your identity stripped away,
Yeah.
Imagine something, you're really good at something that brings you joy and confidence, and then suddenly it's not so easy anymore.
Right.
It makes you realize that MS is so much more than just a physical condition.
Yeah.
It's an emotional and psychological one as well.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to create space for those emotions, to acknowledge that it's okay to not be okay all the time.
To feel the frustration, the sadness, the anger even.
Yes, because those emotions are valid. They're part of the experience.
Right.
And trying to suppress them or pretend they don't exist only makes things harder.
It's like that saying, shared joy is doubled, shared sorrow is halved.
I love that.
When we can open up about our struggles, when we feel seen and heard, it just makes the burden a little bit lighter,
That's a great point. And it brings us back to the importance of Calamity's online community.
Right.
It's a place where she can express those emotions, share her experiences, and know that she's not alone.
And her FOD are probably learning a lot from her too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
About empathy, about resilience, about the importance of finding connection, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. Calamity's story is a powerful reminder that we all have something to offer, something to teach, and something to learn from each other.
Yeah, and sometimes those lessons come from the most unexpected places, like a 53-year-old woman with MS who's rocking the world of YouTube one video at a time.
I love that it's a testament to the human spirit, our ability to adapt and find joy even when faced with challenges.
Speaking of challenges, I want to circle back to something we discussed in the first part, the impact of MS on cognitive processing speed.
Yeah.
We talked about how it affects Calamity's ability to follow movies.
Right.
But I'm guessing there are other areas of life where this comes into play as well.
Absolutely. It can affect everything from multitasking to decision-making to even just, keeping up with a fast-paced conversation.
Right.
Things that many of us take for granted can become surprisingly difficult.
So it's not just about the speed of speech, but also the speed of thought.
Exactly. And that's a nuance that often gets missed.
Yeah.
People might assume that someone is being slow or inattentive, when in reality, their brain is working overtime just to keep up.
Which is why awareness is so crucial.
Oh, yeah.
The more we understand about the invisible challenges that others might be facing, the more equipped we are to be compassionate and supportive.
Absolutely.
It's about shifting our perspective from judgment to curiosity.
Beautifully put, and that curiosity is what will lead us into the final part of our deep dive. We're going to explore how Calamity's story can inspire us all to be more mindful communicators and advocates for greater understanding.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. We've been on quite a journey exploring the world of Calamity, a 53-year-old woman who is showing us all what it means to live with MS and still find joy, connection, and creative expression.
Yeah, it's really remarkable what she's been able to accomplish.
It is. We've talked about the physical and emotional challenges that she faces, the ways that MS has impacted her communication, and just the incredible resilience she embodies in her everyday life.
And of course, we can't forget about her amazing online community, her FOD, Friends on Demand, who are just a constant source of support and inspiration for her.
Right. It's such a beautiful example of how technology can bridge gaps and create meaningful connections, even when physical limitations might exist.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring it back to something you mentioned earlier, mindful communication. It's a term we hear a lot, but what does it actually look like in practice? Especially when we're interacting with someone who might be facing communication challenges.
That's such an important question. And I think Calamity's story gives us some really valuable insights.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think it's about patience. Resisting that urge to jump in or finish someone's sentences.
Right.
If they're speaking more slowly or struggling to find the right words.
Exactly. It's about giving them the time and space they need to express themselves fully without feeling rushed or pressured.
And it's also about active listening.
Yeah.
Truly tuning in to what someone is saying, both verbally and non-verbally, paying attention to their body language, their facial expressions, those subtle cues that might tell you even more than their words alone.
Like putting aside your own agenda and really focusing on understanding the other person's perspective.
Yes. And if you're not sure you understand, don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions.
Right.
It shows that you're engaged and you care about getting it right.
And on the flip side, if you're the one experiencing the communication challenges, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Let people know what you need to communicate effectively.
That might mean asking someone to slow down, repeat themselves, or even write things down.
Exactly. You have the right to communicate in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't hesitate to ask for what you need.
I think Calamity's story reminds us that communication is a two-way street.
For sure.
And we all have a role to play in making it more inclusive and accessible.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing that not everyone communicates in the same way, and that's okay.
And it's about embracing those differences and finding ways to connect even when it takes a little more effort.
So beyond just our individual interactions, what are some things we can all do to be better allies for people with MS and other chronic illnesses?
Well, I think education is key. The more we understand about these conditions, the better equipped we are to be empathetic and supportive.
Yeah.
There's so many resources available, websites, books, documentaries, that can help us broaden our knowledge and challenge our assumptions.
And don't underestimate the power of just talking about these issues,
Right.
Sharing stories like Calamity's raising awareness among our friends and family. It all contributes to creating a more understanding and inclusive world.
It does. And for those who want to take it a step further, there are countless organizations that are working to support people with MS and advocate for change.
Yeah.
Whether it's volunteering your time, donating to research, or simply spreading the word, every action counts.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Calamity's world, I'm left with a sense of hope and inspiration.
Me too.
Her story is just a testament to the human spirit's ability to adapt, to connect, and to find joy, even in the face of adversity.
And it's a call to action for all of us to be more mindful communicators, to be more compassionate and understanding in our interactions,
Right.
and to be advocates for a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued.
Thank you all for joining us on this incredible journey. And remember, Calamity's story is just one of many.
There are countless others out there navigating these similar challenges, and each one has a unique perspective to share. So stay curious, stay connected, and keep those conversations flowing. Until next time.